Merry readers, come cozy in. Let the story time begin with Robin and the narrates.
Hi Merry readers! Today's video is going to be a little bit different than my other videos have been because today I'm actually sharing with you one of my short stories along with some of the artwork that I made to go along with the story. So this story is actually one that I've been working on for a few years, but it's only really shaped up recently, and it's something that grew from my love of witches, my love of living in New York, along with some of the feelings that have been shared with me at book clubs that I've gone to, book clubs that I'm a host of, as well as things that I've felt myself. And it seems to be this epidemic with people in their early 30s, late 20s, even into their 40s and 50s, where people are feeling really disconnected and having a hard time making genuine friendships. And so I have felt it myself. I know lots of people around me who have felt it, and so I wanted to write a little story about that. And because I love magic and I love the fantasy world, it's about a witch living in Brooklyn, and she has a very difficult home life. Her parents and her do not get along. She has found that a lot of her friends are not very genuine, and her friendships have been very surface level. And so this story starts in a sad place, and she is feeling just completely alone and abandoned by everyone around her. And it's only through putting herself out there and getting through some of these hard feelings and overcoming some of her own preconceived notions of how people would perceive her that she's able to get through it. So I won't say anything more because I think that the story speaks for itself. And with that, I'm so grateful to be able to share with all of you my first short story, All Are Welcome. I hope you enjoy. Amelia had baked a carrot cake she couldn't finish. It sat on her chipped counter in her small but cozy apartment in the heart of Williamsburg, Brooklyn. She had carefully frosted it with cream cheese icing, its sides pressed with toasted walnuts. She'd grated the carrots herself that afternoon, and she had bought them specifically from a farmer's market, folding in cinnamon, nutmeg, and a touch of ginger, comfort flavors meant to taste like warmth and love. It was her birthday, and she had pictured sharing it, friends laughing as they scraped the last of the frosting from their plates, someone teasing her for the cake's lopsided lean, someone else asking for the recipe. Instead, a candle burned unattended, dripping wax into the frosting. Her phone buzzed with apologies. "Sorry, work's a mess. Rain check? Next week, I promise." No one came. She had lit the candles anyway, hoping just for a moment that the knocks would come and perhaps it had all been a mean trick. But as the wax dripped and the silence deepened, she blew them out herself. The smoke curled up towards the ceiling in the dark room, bitter as grief. And with it came a memory. A long dinner table at a so-called Thanksgiving. Laughter bubbling at one end while she sat at the other, invisible. Plates passed above her head, conversations skipping over her like she was a ghost. The realization that all are welcome had never truly included her. Brooklyn was loud, crowded, restless. Yet Amelia had never felt more alone. The subway clattered with strangers. The bodega below her apartment hummed with chatter, but her apartment above was silent, save for the drip of the faucet and the rustle of drying herbs. She lit candles and recited her spells, but the magic rang hollow. A witch without a coven was only half herself. She could whisper charms until her throat went raw, but without others to braid their voices with hers, The words unraveled into nothing. She tried not to dwell on it. She tried to pretend she was fine, but loneliness clung to her like smoke in her clothes. One rainy Thursday, while fleeing from a huge thunderstorm that had come out of nowhere, Amelia ducked into a narrow, used bookstore. The air smelled of paper and cedar. Towers of books leaned against one another as if they were old friends. She let her fingers trail the spines, comforted by their quiet presence, until her eyes caught a crooked flyer taped to one of the pillars. The Bewitching Bookworms, a book club for the bookish and bewitched. Wednesdays at 7. All are welcome. Amelia stared, her heart clenched. All are welcome. She had heard those words before, heard them at that dinner table where no one passed her the wine, heard them in the cheerful, "You're always invited" texts from friends who never thought to call unless she asked first. The same was true while scrolling through photos of parties she hadn't known were happening, realizing the welcome only extended as far as the effort she poured in. Her mouth twisted bitterly. "All are welcome," she murmured. People meant it until the table was full and the chairs ran out. Still, before she could stop herself, she pulled a pen from her bag and copied the address into her notebook. Coven's Coffee Shop. She had heard of Coven's Coffee Shop. It was a new little coffee shop that had opened maybe just a year ago, and it was supposed to have the best coffee around. But she had never liked to go to places like that, for she always found that they were full of phonies, and she didn't like being around fake witches who didn't really know what they were doing. "I'm probably not going to go," she said to herself. But something deep in her chest began to pull towards that flyer, and had her wondering for the next week what might be waiting for her if she were to attend. The following Wednesday, she almost didn't go. She paced her small apartment, coat half on, half off, telling herself it would be another disappointment, another room where she'd feel the scrape of silence at the edge of other people's conversations. But something tugged at her, maybe magic, maybe just hope in its last fragile form. Before she knew it, she found herself on the subway, umbrella dripping down her boots, following the address scribbled in her notebook. The cafe was small, and as the rain hit the windows, she saw that they were fogged with warmth. Through the back door, she saw them, a circle of people, leaning over books and teacups. Laughter spilled like candlelight. She froze. She could already feel the sting of being overlooked, already imagine them nodding politely before turning back to one another. She braced herself to leave. And then someone looked up. Curly hair, a necklace shaped like a teacup, eyes bright with welcome, and they waved. "First time?" Amelia hesitated. Yes." "Then come in, we saved you a seat." For a moment she couldn't breathe. Saved her a seat? The words landed like a spell she hadn't dared to cast. The Bewitching Bookworms were unlike anything she'd known. Their books were spread across the table, yes, but so were bowls of sugared lavender, tarot decks, bundles of sage, crystals. Someone had chalked a protective circle beneath their chairs, and they read chapters but also fortunes, discussed characters but also brewed teas for headaches, and scribbled sigils in the margins. One member, a tattooed man who worked nights at the Brooklyn Museum, brought cookies and chanted to stay warm no matter how long they sat on the plate. Another, a grad student with a yellow bow in her hair, wove protective charms into paper bookmarks. They swapped stories like spells, laughter spilling as freely as tea. Amelia sat cautiously at first, waiting for the moment she'd be forgotten, but it never came. When she spoke, heads turned. When she hesitated, someone asked gently what she thought. And when she reached for a cookie, 3 hands nudged the plate closer to her. No one rushed her, and no one ignored her. Week by week, she returned. The city still roared around her, sirens, subway brakes screeching, neighbors arguing upstairs. But it no longer sounded like loneliness. Her little apartment began to breathe again. The herbs by the window revived and grew green again. The candles burned steady, their flames bright, tall, and sure. Even her magic felt stronger, not because she had learned to cast alone, but because she knew somewhere across Brooklyn others were weaving it too. And sometimes when she sat at her tiny kitchen table, she remembered the ache of those empty chairs on her birthday, the hollow of that Thanksgiving, the silence of being overlooked. She remembered, and then she smiled, because she knew those memories no longer defined her. One night, as rain tapped softly against the cafe windows, the bookworms closed their books and lit a single candle. They leaned in, close enough that the flame warmed their faces. Amelia looked around at them, their smiles, their hands brushing hers as they passed the teapot, their eyes sparkling like constellations, and something shifted inside her. She wasn't waiting anymore, not for invitations that never came, not for a family that had let her down, not for friends who forgot her. She had found her coven, her family, and the proof was this. The next week, Amelia arrived with another carrot cake, frosted with care, its sides pressed with walnuts. She set it on the table, braced for polite refusals. But instead, the bewitching bookworms cheered, plates clinked, forks scraped, crumbs vanished until nothing was left but smears of icing and laughter loud enough to drown out the storm outside. This time the cake was finished, every bite shared, every seat filled, and Amelia knew they had been waiting for her all along, hidden between the pages.
Merry readers, I hope you enjoyed that story. If you would like to see more things like this on my channel, or if you would like to leave a comment or just tell me how you feel, please feel free to comment below. I love seeing all the comments from you and it makes my day. And if you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe. If you know anyone who would like to hear this story, or maybe someone who could use hearing this story, please share. And thank you for being a part of the Merry Readers community. Check back on Wednesday for my next video, and until then, I hope that you do something nice for yourself. Thank you. Bye!
So merry readers, close your eyes. Let the stories lift and rise. Till next time, when lights will gleam, we're bright.